4 months ago, I tested the world's fastest integrated graphics, the Radeon 8060S. It ran Cyberpunk at 1600p ultra settings perfectly smooth, and Fortnite at almost 1000 FPS. But if it can do all that with stock settings, what happens if we push it beyond AMD's official limits? Well, that's exactly what we're going to find out. So today, we're raising that power limit, boosting the clock speeds, and optimizing every last setting. Not just to get the highest FPS ever recorded on an iGPU, but also to try and break the world record benchmark score. Now, before I even started the challenge, I knew this was not going to be easy. Unlike the last time I went for a world record, instead of using a desktop, I'm using a tablet for this. And though it does get the same performance as any other PC with the same specs, we're going to be held back by the cooling, because it's literally thinner than an AirPods case. So here are my 3 goals for this video. The first one is getting 1000 FPS in Fortnite. But you might be thinking, who needs more than 938 FPS on an empty map? And to that I say, nobody. It's just gonna be a fun side challenge, and at this point, is it really even a Lecctron video if we don't get 1000 FPS? I feel like we do that in like every video. Anyways, the second challenge of the video is trying to go from 86 FPS to 90 FPS in Shadow of the Tomb Raider. And of course, for the final, biggest, and most difficult challenge of the video, I'm going to try and set a new world record benchmark score with integrated graphics. And so I wasted no time booting up the Steel Nomad benchmark to get my first attempt at the world record out of the way. And since this is one of the most demanding GPU benchmarks out there, it's going to be a reliable way to see if the tweaks I do are actually doing something. Then after we push this score as high as possible, we'll attempt the other 2 goals. But on my first run, things were already not looking good because we scored 1,997 points, 11% lower than the current world record. This was really bad news because the last time I went for a record, we started off being just 2% off of first place. So if I wanted to get the record over 680 other people, 1,997 points is not a great start. For attempt 2, I knew I needed to change something. I had the VRAM on recommended, so I set it to 8 GB instead so that the GPU has more dedicated VRAM and doesn't have to constantly borrow memory from the CPU. And after changing that setting, we finished with 6 more points than last time. It's a small improvement, but an improvement nonetheless. The third attempt is where we increased the power limit to the absolute max. I've only ever used turbo mode, so manual power mode was definitely pretty intimidating. But just as I was about to max everything out, I got a warning that's pretty much just there to tell me that whatever happens to the laptop is my fault, and I can't blame it on ASUS. Well, I guess if I fry my laptop, there's nothing I can do about it. Regardless, with our new power limits, we were finally able to get an above average score, 2,104 points. But sadly, this is still more than 6% off of the world record, so there's still a lot more to do. On the 4th attempt, I tried running the benchmark without connecting to a monitor. I don't know why I thought this was a good idea, but I just wanted to try something different. And we ended up losing 12 points. So on the 5th attempt, not only did I reconnect the tablet back to the monitor, but I wanted to make the fan curve a little bit more aggressive so we have a bit better cooling. And with a bit better cooling, we might get a few more points. But even though my tablet is now unnecessarily loud, we just get less performance. Really confusing because you'd think that if we increase the fan speeds, we'd have better cooling and get more points. So I reset the fan curves for attempt number 6 just to be safe, because it's on this attempt where we're going to finally start overclocking this thing. My first idea was to try applying an auto overclock using the AMD software. It's the simplest and safest way to overclock pretty much any AMD GPU, except for this one. Where there's supposed to be an option to overclock the GPU, there's only an option to overclock the CPU. But either way, the auto CPU overclock option doesn't work anyways. I tried using MSI Afterburner to try to overclock the GPU, but the sliders are unmovable as well. And at this point is when I realized that overclocking integrated graphics is not quite as easy as a dedicated GPU. So your boy had to resort to Google. Google, bruh. Google's always saving the freaking day. Except for today, because the first result I found was this video from ETA Prime, where he's overclocking the same integrated graphics as me. The only problem is that he has them in a mini PC, and I have them in a tablet. So what's the issue? The issue is that the only way to overclock these integrated graphics is to go into the BIOS. And yeah, desktop and tablet BIOSes are completely different. He has all these overclocking options, and I have jack shit. After some time, I found this post on overclock.net. Now you'd think that with a name like that, I'm for sure going to find the solution to my problem. Like if there's one place where I'm going to learn how to overclock my GPU, it would have to be this website, right? Wrong, because the only post on this website about the 8060S has nothing to do with overclocking. The only information I could find in this post was about raising the power limits and changing the fan curves, things that I already did in this video, and not a thing about overclocking. Is this clickbait, bruh? You posted something on overclock.net that has nothing to do with overclocking. I mean, to be fair, they posted my video on a car website, even though my videos have nothing to do with cars. The point is, I was still struggling to find any sort of information on how to overclock the 8060S. Probably because there is no information on this topic. But after some time, I ended up finding some insight into something that might be even better than overclocking. At least in this situation. Under this post on the r/flowz13 subreddit, the comments are all talking about how undervolting is safer, easier, and better with this specific tablet. So obviously I had to try that out for myself. And so I downloaded and ran this random software off a Reddit comment. I'm just kidding, I made sure that the file was actually safe before I downloaded it. I am not the type to get my accounts hacked and stolen. But before I could even get to undervolting, the entire window just disappeared. I tried to slide the thing and then poof, it just freaking disappears. But what I noticed is that when I reopened GHelper, it seemed to keep my previous settings. So the next time I reopened it, all I did was apply my -6 undervolt to the CPU and GPU, and this time I finally didn't break it. But that doesn't even matter, because after hours of research and hours of messing around, the only thing that happened is we lost points. This guy said we would get more performance from undervolting, and we got less. Oh my goodness, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? But then I remembered I was messing around with the CPU boost settings earlier because I was bored. But since these CPU boost options clearly make a sizable performance difference, I decided to pause the undervolting stuff for a second and test every single one of these CPU boost options to see if we can beat our high score. Starting with the safest option, disabling CPU boost. I don't know how, but somehow we ended up getting more points with CPU boost disabled. On attempt 11, I made the coolest possible fan curves with the fans blasting at 100% pretty much all the time, and that resulted in our best run yet, placing us just 27 points behind top 100. I would not recommend doing this though, because just listen to the noise. I know people love to joke about their PCs sounding like jet engines, but dude, this is insane. But now that we have the most aggressive fan curve possible, it was time to test every single CPU boost option to try and get the highest possible score. But after going through every single one, in the end, disabled, the default option, ended up performing the best. And this actually makes a lot of sense. In a tablet, we have limited power, so if the CPU pulls more to run faster, the GPU gets less power. And in a GPU-bound benchmark like this, boosting the CPU was never going to help. So I just reverted to CPU boost disabled, because clearly that was the best option. And that's where undervolting comes in. I just did a simple -6 undervolt on the CPU and GPU, and the results were honestly quite promising. We were getting basically the same amount of points, just using less power. But when I tried a more aggressive undervolt, we just kept on getting less points. And even with more minimal undervolts, we just kept on getting the same amount of points. A little disappointing, but I think we've just about reached the absolute limit of what this integrated GPU can do. At least in this one benchmark. Because we're not done yet. There are still plenty of other less competitive benchmarks where a world record might actually be within reach. And with how much performance we've already squeezed out of this thing, I think we've got a decent shot at some of these. And after that, we still have 2 more goals to hit. So it's time to see if all this tweaking was worth it. Starting with Steel Nomad Lite, we got 10,679 points. That's a top 100 placement, which sounds great until you realize there are only about 830 submissions. And keep in mind, this is still the same tablet that's thinner than an AirPods case, and we're still competing with desktop systems. So top 17% is not too bad, but the results only get better from here. In Solar Bay Extreme, we got 29th with 6,739 points. And in Solar Bay, we got 31st with 49,109 points. Then in Time Spy, we got 10,381 points. It is 8% higher than the average, but with more than 8,300 submissions, we didn't even get top 100 here. Night Raid was our second best result. With over 600 average FPS, we would have landed top 30 out of 213. The reason I say would have is because it bugged out and didn't count my run. But none of that matters because we got our best score in Firestrike. It was here that we got top 29 out of 336 in the physics test. So unfortunately, we were not able to secure our second world record despite pushing this iGPU to the absolute limit. But benchmark scores are not quite as important as real-life gaming performance, and we still have 2 goals left. The goal in Fortnite was to hit 1000 FPS. At the beginning, we were averaging 938 FPS and peaking at 959 at best. But after everything we did in this video, we managed to pull 991 average FPS and peak above 1000. That's a solid 6.6% increase off of stock settings. So that's one goal checked off. But did we manage to go from 86 to 90 FPS in Shadow of the Tomb Raider? Well, after everything we did, we got 91 FPS. That's a respectable 5 FPS increase. Though the world record slipped away, what we were able to do in real games is kinda crazy for a tablet with integrated graphics. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, you'll probably enjoy this one too, where I built the most powerful $500 PC using only Temu. So watch this video next.